The question I always get when I'm interviewed is, why are they doing this? I said, oh my gosh, if I knew that, I'd probably be a millionaire, but I don't have that information.
Mhm.
I don't have any messages from them that are telling me, and I wish they would tell me why they're doing this. What is the purpose? What is the ultimate purpose? And of course, everybody wants to know why.
Welcome to the Biba frequency, home to conversations with consciousness. I'm Biba, your host. Welcome back. Today I've invited Yvonne Smith onto the show. Yvonne is a regression therapist for 33 years. She's written a book called Chosen, and she's in the middle of creating a new book based on her clients' experiences and a documentary to follow based on the experiences of her clients. She's a regression therapy with a twist. She is an alien abduction regression therapist for people who have had close encounters, for people who have had experiences with otherworldly beings, or as my friend would say, beyond sentient beings. Yvonne is an incredibly beautiful woman, and I understand why she has been doing this for so long. Her heart is open and she's kind and she exudes love. And so she creates a beautiful space for her clients to unravel their stories, missing time, missing memories, and try to understand how to blend these worlds that these people are living in together in this one space and time. I created this podcast to help people understand that there are different realities and we're all living in different realities. And if somebody has had an experience, who am I to say that that is not real just because it's not in my version of reality? And so everything is real if it is perceived to be so for that person. So listen to what this lady has to say and learn and open your heart and open your mind and take in what's in the vastness of this universe that we're in. I'm so grateful to Yvonne and to Steve Neal, who created the YouTube channel Breaking the Silence. This is where I found Steve in my last podcast and subsequently discovered Yvonne Smith. She's a regression therapist. If you have had experiences, you can contact her directly. I will add all the links. Please enjoy the show and remember not to get too spooked. This is just another version of reality. So, Yvonne, welcome to the Biba Frequency podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, well, the pleasure is definitely all mine because you are a very, very unique individual, and what you're offering at this time it's quite rare. You're quite a rare diamond.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been doing my work now for 33 years, and I still don't believe it's been that long. But yeah, in my support group, Zero has been around 32 years. And I guess that's how much this work is needed. With the work I do as a hypnotherapist and with my support group, people who come together that have had these UFO experiences, it's obviously needed. And that's why we've been around so long.
Yeah, that's a long time. That's like an enormous chunk of your life dedicated to ET
Mhm.
encounters and UFOs. And tell us a little bit about your story, Yvonne, so people over here in Europe can understand you a bit more.
Well, gosh, it was about 33 years ago or more. Um, I attended a lecture by who turned out to be my mentor, Bud Hopkins. I don't know if people in Europe are familiar with him, but he passed away several years ago. But he was considered here in the States, United States, as a pioneer of abduction research. He wrote several books. One was Missing Time, and several others. And he was lecturing not too far from where I lived at the time.
Mm.
And so my mother wanted to go. The conferences at the time were called Whole Life Expo. And my mother was she was very psychic and into metaphysics and so forth. So she wanted to go and of course see the other speakers and see the vendors and but we went to his lecture, and of course he was talking about the abduction experiencers, people he was working with. He had, at the time we were using slides. He had the slide projector, and I was so riveted. I mean, I just couldn't believe what he was talking about. I knew about, of course, UFOs, or way back, everybody called them flying saucers, and I was very, very fortunate that my parents were very open. We talked about everything, and but to for him to present personal stories of people that were taken aboard a craft and describe what was being done to them, and he had sketches of what they did, what they saw, um, body marks that
Mm.
were shown that come up every once in a while on people after they've had an experience, and usually they come up overnight. Those marks weren't there the night before. They usually aren't painful, and the person doesn't notice them right away. So I have many, many photos of those. So he was, presenting all that, and that's after that lecture, I became very interested in the work, and how he used hypnotic regression, where you take a person back to the time and place when they had the experience, whether they saw the UFO. I mean, these abduction experiences usually start in childhood and will follow the person throughout their life, as well as certain family members. So it runs intergenerational. We still don't know how a person or family is chosen initially, but we just know once they have the experience, it's a lifelong experience. So I looked into hypnotherapy colleges and was very fortunate. I think it was meant to be. There was one only maybe 45 minutes or so from my home.
Mm.
And I took the year-long course, worked in the clinic to accumulate my hours to graduate as a hypnotherapist, and then just began practicing as I I became interested in the subject. So I started going and attending whenever there was a UFO conference nearby. I would go and meeting other researchers. I introduced myself, as a hypnotherapist. How I worked with Bud Hawkins. I was fortunate with Bud because he was in New York. I'm here in Southern California, so we're coast to coast. And whenever he'd come into Los Angeles, he would invite me to sit in on a session or two. So that's how I started learning. You don't learn this. I didn't learn this at all at hypnotherapy college. What you learn there are the mechanics of how to hit somebody, you know, um, what to use, the pattern you use. So it's not, they never encouraged it at that time to use any kind of regression for any for any of the therapies. So I knew how to hypnotize people. And then with Bud observing his sessions, I began then working with abduction cases. As people in the field got to know me, they would refer cases to me. But initially I was going to really work with cancer patients, um, because a very close uncle of mine, he was almost like a big brother, died very young. He was 40 years old of cancer.
Mm.
And I was with him every day in the hospital. And I thought, oh my gosh, after he passed away, I thought, if I only knew, if I only had the information, that I have now as a hypnotherapist. I could have helped him,
Wow.
cross over, maybe
Hmm.
ease his pain and anxiety and all that. So that that really inspired me to go and seek out, hypnotherapy colleges as well. So I figured I'm going to work with cancer patients, which I did in the clinic and when I started my practice, and I'll have a few abduction cases hopefully come in. Well, it turned out the other way around. I had a few cancer patients coming in, and my abduction work, my abduction clientele just snowballed. It became what took up most of my time. And now 33 years later, uh, it's unbelievable how much time has passed. But I guess when you're busy and doing what you're supposed to do, what your life's work is, time just goes by.
Wow. It's just unbelievably incredible what's gone through your mind, what you've heard in 33 years. Your understanding of realities must be phenomenal.
It's
Phenomenal.
it's amazing because if I thought, in the beginning that, oh my God, these people are making this up, this can't be happening, if I thought that this wasn't real, I wouldn't have dedicated 33 years to this work. But it was the people that were coming to me and people that still don't know each other were describing very similar experiences, almost identical, of how what they remember in the beginning. Usually, a person will remember the beginning of an abduction or the end of an abduction when maybe they're brought back to their normal environment, whether it's their home or whether it's their car, wherever they were taken from. But there's that middle area that people don't remember. They remember something like, I think something strange happened to me, or I saw these strange lights in the sky, or a very strange craft that was flying very low. And many of them say, it's not a helicopter because helicopters make so much noise. Uh, so they remember bits and pieces of something happening. And then, of course, that haunts them for many years. People don't come forward right away, especially way, way back, 30, 40, 50 years ago. There was nothing to compare this to. So many of them interpret their experiences, oh, maybe it was ghosts in my room. Maybe that's what I saw, and because this experience starts in very early childhood, the child will describe whatever's in the room as something that they're familiar with, a clown or a skeleton, or, they don't know to say alien, they
Yeah.
don't call it an alien. And it's not until many years later when now we have, when I started my practice, there was no internet. I mean, we were just beginning to email.
Hmm.
And of course, now with the internet, you can find anything on there. And really, with this work, I feel that the internet has really caused many problems with the research because so much out there can be faked, can
Mm.
be photoshopped. And so you really have to, uh, separate the wheat from the chaff and make sure what you're reading and what you're seeing is actually true. So I rarely go on the internet. I rarely go on anything like YouTube or anything like that. I'm on Facebook. I've had Facebook for several years just so that people can find me. And I'm on LinkedIn, and the same reason for people to be able to find me. Excuse me. But other than that, there's just so much out there. I tell my new clients, be careful when you go on the internet. Not everything is real, and there's so much disinformation out there, that everybody has to be careful,
Mm,
where they go.
definitely. And when you, as your own sovereign being, having your own life experience, you're 30 years dealing with other people's experiences that are, private. They're not talked about in mainstream. How do you process that information yourself as a therapist? You're not dealing with trauma like someone was abused as a child. There's traumas we understand, but then there's situations that you never knew existed until that person walked into the room and got regressed. How do you deal with that?
um, Excuse me, I'm having allergy problems today. And I talk a lot in my work, in my sessions, so it affects my throat. In the very beginning, I realized that I really had to protect myself from taking everything in and then having that information and that trauma affect my life. So I just learned, when I'm working with someone, just to block myself from, because we can't take in all the negatives and all the trauma and all. Um, and I was very conscious of it when I first started working. Now I do it automatically and I don't think about it. I just do it. But because many times people will relive that or those experiences. So they go into trauma. They're saying they're there on the craft, they're there on the table, they're being examined. And so they go into that trauma again. And that's where a therapist must protect themselves, because you're not going to be an effective therapist if you fall apart during the session and you're crying and you've got to be strong to help that person. And oh gosh, and many times, especially in the beginning of my work, I wanted to cry along with my clients, especially the women who, and men too, because it happens to men too. But when the women um, become pregnant and then they're no longer pregnant after about 3 months, and we learned, later that they were abducted again and the fetus was taken. And that was way back in the beginning where, oh my gosh, what's happening? It was very confusing at first. Now, um, after all these years, I know I can feel and say that the hybridization, which is a child half alien, half human, is a real program, and I feel that it is uh, the center of everything that these beings are doing. So whatever their agenda is, and we still don't know, um, it's, I mean, that's the center of it. That's the focus of creating a hybrid race, which is, I couldn't have said this 20 years ago. I thought, oh my God, this sounds crazy. It sounds like science fiction. But now, after doing this for so long, I mean, I have to, when I'm speaking to audiences, I have to go where the research is taking me.
Mm,
And I've had hundreds of regressions where women are taken aboard, they're shown these very strange looking babies, as well as men, and they're told these babies are theirs and they must show it love and they must bond with this baby for it to survive, because these beings don't have the capability of apparently doing that. So they need us as human beings to bond with these children. And then people are taken time and time again, and the children are in different stages of growth. And so they're there again to teach them things, to bond with them. And it could be very, very emotional. When I first started and I was hearing these accounts of having their children shown to them, and the women, the men are crying, like, how could this be? How could this be my child? Of course, they want to bring the child back home with them to live
Mm.
here on earth, and they're told that they can't do that, that the child cannot survive here. And of course, that's just with us as human beings,
Mm.
we love our children. We have family connection. We love our families. It's just natural for us, and it's a special love. And they don't quite um, understand that, maybe now after all these years. But uh, when the person is bonding with that child, they're usually observed by these alien beings, like, to see what we're doing. It just when I first started talking about this hybridization, oh my gosh, it was so difficult to talk about it. I wouldn't bring it up. In the 90s, I did many, many talk shows in New York, and I wouldn't bring it up during a talk show because it just sounded so crazy. And you only have an hour in between commercials, and you can't just say, oh yes, they're making a hybrid race, half alien, half human, and then the show's over. I mean, there's no other explanation. Then it sounds like, oh my God, I mean, what is she talking about? She's crazy. So I would just, I started talking about it during my lectures, starting many years ago, and I show slides of inside the craft where people are describing, just along the walls, just tanks of liquid with these tiny little fetuses in there. Um, or people have drawn pictures of what their child looked like, with the very wispy hair, the larger eyes and human eyes, uh, very, very thin. But now, and that was many years ago, where if those hybrids were down here, say 20 years ago, we would notice them, like, oh my God, you know, look at that person. But now I feel that, or I know that hybrids are here among us, living among us, working among us, where we don't notice them because they look so human. It's not until someone stops and speaks to them, to one of these hybrids, that there's something different. They're looking right into your eyes. They can read your mind. They're very psychic. Uh, I've had many people tell me that they feel that they met or they ran into a hybrid. And so what is the end game of these alien beings with these hybrids? I mean, I don't feel, and maybe it's just my, hoping and praying that they're not being created to take us over, get rid of the humans and take us over. But it sounds so, like a horror movie. But because I feel that the beings still need us. They need our DNA, they need our emotions. They need to create these hybrid beings. They still need us. So, but I don't know. The question I always get when I'm interviewed is, why are they doing this? I said, oh my gosh, if I knew that, I'd probably be a millionaire, but I don't have that information.
Mm.
I don't, um, I don't have any messages from them that are telling me, and I wish they would tell me why they're doing this. what is the purpose? What is the ultimate purpose? So, and of course, everybody wants to know why. And that's very difficult. I just can't answer that right now.
I like the way you say right now because you might get an opportunity in regression. Do you ever in regression say talk to one of them? Do you ever give we can do that in regression, right? We can role play. Do you ever give talk to them?
Yeah, every once in a while there'll be a being that is interacting with the person that I have in regression, and every once in a while the being will give me a message or give the person a message, and but usually I don't remember ever communicating directly. I will ask the abductee, you
Mm,
know, ask him this or ask him that, and um, they're never told, because everybody wants to know, where are you from? Where are you from? Why are you doing this? They're never given a definitive answer about where they're from.
okay.
Maybe because what we look on a map right now, we're not going to see or detect their planet yet. We hear about these scientists discovering new planets all the time. And so, you know, that's why I know this is very real, because there's just too many people experiencing these abductions, being taken, being examined. I mean, you're in Ireland. I mean, this is worldwide. You
Mhm.
know, some people get the impression it's just in the United States. This is worldwide. I work with people all over the world, especially now that we have Zoom, for instance. Um, I started doing the Zoom sessions during COVID because
Great.
we were
Hmm.
all in lockdown, and I had to close my office. And but these experiences didn't stop.
Yeah.
A person's PTSD was still there, and so I decided, it's probably a good time to do the Zoom sessions, and I've been doing them now since 2020, and they've been going very well. And my gosh, I could reach out to people anywhere, which is wonderful. We didn't have any of this when I started my practice. It's amazing.
Incredible. That is incredible, isn't it? That
It's
you can have it.
amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's amazing that people can work with you that aren't in America, that they get
Oh,
somebody with
absolutely.
your level of expertise. Like you may talk about the likes of John Mack and Bob Hoskins and those people, but actually you're that person now. That's you for us. So for somebody to go, it's such a private, personal thing.
Mhm.
And the ridicule that goes with it because of society and, you know, for someone to feel safe. As I do regression as well, and it takes a lot for somebody to come and tell me everything and help, walk them through their trauma. And I can't imagine what it's like with the alien abductions and these hybrid children, though, they have a story too. I mean, they're here, and I wonder what their story is. I mean, I wonder what their story is. They're going to know they grown up in tanks. So they were born in a woman's womb, and then it was taken from a woman's womb and put into a liquid in a wall of babies, right? Tanks of babies, or
Yes.
and then they come here to help us change the civilization or however. Like when you were talking about it, I was feeling such a wave of emotion that these
Mhm.
these beings are so empathic, and
Yes.
so I have that
Yes.
real feeling that they're very special, actually, is the feeling that I get.
And that's what, when people have come across them, that's the feeling they get. It's like when they're talking to them, when they're communicating, they're different. It's not just talking to another human being. It's like this person is different. They say, I feel like they're reading my mind. So hopefully, with the work that I'm doing and the work that eventually you're going to be doing, because I'm so happy you're taking my workshop. So, boy,
Thank you.
we need people all over the world to do this, and this is why I'm offering the workshops, because I can't do these forever, and um, we need people everywhere. I'd love to have trained abduction therapists all in all 50 states in the United States, and of course around the world. And so that's why I'm so grateful with Zoom. I'm able to reach out and teach this class
Wow.
with everybody that's in all different areas, countries, and
Incredible.
it is so, I mean, when you think about it, it's very overwhelming. I don't allow myself to think about it too much in depth, because
Yeah.
with millions of people being affected by this, um, and I'm hoping that in our lifetime, something's going to happen where our governments aren't going to be able to try to explain it away.
Mm.
Some kind of disclosure. Um, but we've had, I don't know if they're in Ireland or in Europe per se, you get the news of some of the congressional hearings we've
Mm-hmm.
had here. It's amazing. I think we're going to have more, which we need. But here, I don't think we ever, I mean, we all hoped and prayed, but I didn't think we ever thought we'd see it. The one I watched, it was sometime last year, with the three sworn in um, observers. They were, pilots uh, that were talking about their interaction, their experience with them. And here are these people. And if they were lying or making something up, they could be in prison for perjury. So I thought that's a very important step that we're taking. And people that are coming forward, the whistleblowers, when one or two start coming forward, then it gives other people uh, the chance and the courage to say, that happened to me too, and I'm going to start talking about it. Um, it's almost like safety in numbers, and so I give them a lot of credit for coming forward and saying, this, look, this was what happened to us. Um, so there in Ireland, say, do you do you hear a lot of discussion about, maybe not abduction, but about disclosure, about what may be flying around in the skies?
Well, do you know, Yvonne, only if you're looking at those type of things on the internet. So someone
Mm,
like myself would be tuned into certain people who talk and then you hear about it, but it's never on the news. It's never in the media. The
right.
mainstream media doesn't cover UFOs, or it may occasionally. I actually don't watch the news or read the papers. I can't,
Yeah,
because it's so bleak. It's so bleak in Ireland. I think it's bleak everywhere, but no, you don't. You might get something, but it's a small something in the middle of something else. And
sure,
so
sure.
they'll say, yeah, we did cover it, but yeah, you covered it by covering it with a million other things around it.
Yeah, I understand. But this is what
Yeah.
also amazing was when the our Navy pilots came out, when they released that video, they called it the Tic Tac little thing that was flying
Mhm.
around. That's when the mainstream media picked it up. This was, I think it happened in 2016, and then it came out, what, a couple years ago, maybe? I mean, we had the Washington Post, the New York Times, we had CNN, MSNBC covering this, showing
Wow.
the video. Did you see that over in Europe? Did they show
Yes.
anything? Oh,
Yes,
let's
they
see.
did.
We're getting
Yes.
there. There,
Yeah, we are getting there. That
I
one
mean,
was everywhere.
that, oh, I mean, we never, I was watching this on the news and I was in disbelief.
Mm,
It was, oh my God, maybe all of the work that we're doing is not going to be in vain, you know?
mm,
Um, so it, seeing this, starting to trickle in our lifetime, but we need more of it. But of course, that's something flying around. That's something that, trained pilots were not able to identify. So you listen to them because they're very well trained of what flies up there. But we haven't talked about abductions. And that's going
yeah.
to be the big step. I mean, that's going to be, we're still fighting an uphill battle, um, of presenting abductions. I mean, will we have this discussion in one of the congressional hearings? I mean,
Wow.
that's huge because it just sounds, it's frightening to most people.
Yeah.
So you can imagine presenting this in a hearing to the public, and and then of course our governments don't have a handle on it. It's like they can't say we're protecting you. Our
No,
military is
no.
going to. It's not going to happen, and I think that's
Mm,
probably one of the reasons why they probably will not discuss it, at least right now, because they can't. They don't have control over it.
mm,
They don't know what it is. They have no control of it. They can't promise people, the citizens, that they're going to be safe. Um,
yeah. It's
so
out of their realm.
this is going to be huge, just going to be so huge. But it's not just lights in the sky or craft in the sky. Again, I feel the abduction phenomena is very central to what they're doing. It's not just hardware. Um, it's
Yeah.
it's it's engaging with human beings, and to me, that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
So we all have a lot of work ahead of us. And again, I don't want to think about it too much because I don't want to get overwhelmed, more overwhelmed than I already am.
But it's the story. It's just that it's the story. It's our story, and it is coming out, and people like you who've constantly just kept your foot on the accelerator and not giving up and going beyond your own belief systems into going, okay, I have a person sitting here in front of me, they're distressed, they're having this experience, this is a new experience, I've never heard this before, and just kind of constantly breaking down your own paradigms. And that's, we all really need to be called to that place where we just go, this is this person's reality, and their reality is real to them, and my reality is real to me. There's no right or wrong or real or
Right,
not real. It just, everything just is.
right.
And can I ask you, with the cases when you started out and 10 years in, 20 years in, and even 30 years in, is it the same narrative or has it changed?
It's pretty much the same narrative because where that's where all the similarities are. That's what I knew. Oh my God, something is happening because, like I say, still to this day, most of my clients don't know each other. And they're talking about the same thing. So when they start wanting to explore their experiences, we will many times go back to their childhood, early childhood, and start exploring the whatever it was in their room or whatever it was that brought them outside to their backyard. Um, and then when, as we start uncovering their experience, they're all of a sudden in a very strange room. They're not no longer in their bedroom.
Mm,
Um, and then they're describing a lot of activity. They're describing lying down, but not in their bed, and hearing, feeling activity around them. Many times they're not seeing anything, or not everything. Maybe one side is very, very dark. And that some of that is the subconscious protecting them. And it also could be where the beings are also blocking them, where they don't want them to see everything that's happening. So the way they explained it, the way they describe what's happening to them, it's just been, again, it's, I almost wait for it. I almost wait for the next thing, because I've heard it hundreds of times. Now, at times we get messages. A lot of it's been over the years, of course, that we're not taking care of our planet, and um, we need to we need to all grow spiritually. We can stop negative uh, energy coming in, negative activity coming in. They'll show uh, pictures of destruction in many, many. In fact, we discussed this in our meeting last Sunday. Abductees will have apocalyptic dreams of tidal waves or earthquakes, or where they're witnessing everything around them being destroyed, and then they're told in the course of their regression or in a very vivid dream that we could stop these events from happening. We all have the capability of stopping. We just have to. And this is what's so simplistic when they've been told. And when I would present this every once in a while to my audiences, we have to be in a place of higher spirituality and in a place of love, that we show each other kindness and love. That's where it's all going to come from. If we all display that, then it's very powerful around the world. I mean, when you talk about it, when you say it, it just sounds, well, that's pretty simple, but not everybody practices that or believes that. That's where I guess we come in, and we try to teach people, and the abductees try to teach, convey these messages. Um, and look what's happening around the world right now. I mean, I feel like we're in a bigger mess than I think we've ever been, with all the wars going on around us and climate change and all of that. I mean, it's, that overwhelms me. I don't even like to think about it. Of course, that's not going to make it go away, but
Mm.
it is very
That would be
overwhelming
nice.
with what's going on around us.
Mm.
Um, so, but it's like, the experiences are for all these years are all very similar, all very, and the emotions people uh, experience. They're, like I said, PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. That's why they come to me in the first place. They know something strange happened. They don't know what exactly. They're afraid to talk to anybody. Um, but they know that something happened. And it's, of course, very obviously, if they wake up with a strange mark or scar on their body that was not there the night before, or blood on their pillow or on their sheets, just things like that, which is very disturbing. They know that something is happening. And so they come to me for those reasons, because um they're they're unable to concentrate on work. And we all have to work, everybody has bills to pay and
Yeah.
all of that. I mean, that's life. We all have to experience life. And and they, they're not able to sleep. They many times have recurring dreams. um, so it's affecting the experience, is affecting their work. It affects their relationships. uh, and that's real difficult. This is very, very hard on a relationship, whether it's a marriage, you just have a significant other. um, One wants to talk about it, the other one doesn't, so the communication stops there. Oh my gosh, I've had so many people, so many marriages and relationships have broken up because of this, which is very, very sad. And I always invite the spouses or significant others into the meetings to meet other people, to show them, look, we're not crazy, we're not sitting here with foil hats, and you know we're
Yeah.
we're very, very normal people,
Yeah.
uh, from all walks of life. Some come, some don't. um, I think people, when they're afraid, I think a lot of it is fear. They feel if they talk about it, or they allow their spouse to talk about it and they're having a discussion, it's going to make it too real,
Yeah.
So I think a lot of it is fear. And the fear often comes out like anger. And but I could tell, oh, that person, is afraid. And I could understand,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
because something's coming into our homes where we're supposed to be safe, or something is plucking people off the road, um, and they're experiencing, missing time, say an hour or two or more missing. They don't remember what happened. That is part of this. It's very disturbing to people. um, 20, 30, 40 years later, they, finally, because they've read something or they saw something, they saw a documentary that was being discussed, and they realized, oh God, maybe that's what happened to me. um, and that's when they seek out help, finally, after all those years. it's
Mm.
a it's a very complex, very difficult work,
Yeah.
because the person, once the person and this family is chosen, the experience, okay, I think I mentioned before, is lifelong. It
Mm.
may lay dormant for a while, maybe a year or more, nothing happens. But then somewhere down the line, something else is going to happen. Many times I get from people, oh, I thought I was done with this, or they were done with me, and then something else happens. But I tell people that happens to you, you're in their program, and they're always going to have something for you to do. Even if people that are in their late 70s, 80s, they're going, what do they want with me now? I can't get pregnant. I don't have sperm. I just, they're, and that's what I say, once you're in their program, they will have a job for you. And they do.
Can I ask you about the actual the insemination? Does a woman get pregnant with her partner, or how does it work? Is it very different? Is it always different, or is there like a system they have, like a they impregnate the woman if they're taking sperm from a man and eggs from a woman? Like, what can you tell me about that?
Um, there, I don't, are you asking?
Like when the lady gets pregnant, let's say
Mhm.
a client, she's pregnant, and is it because she had intercourse with her partner, or does she suddenly become pregnant?
Either way, it
Either
happens.
way,
Yeah, it
single
happened.
women.
Single women where they don't have a partner, a regular partner, they haven't had sex for a while. And that, can you imagine how disturbing that is?
Yeah, that's
Um,
disturbing.
or they have, say, married couples, and she comes up pregnant. And of course, if you have, you're married, you're going to have relations,
Hmm.
but as it comes up pregnant, and then what, 3 months down the line, she's no longer pregnant. And that's also very disturbing, because she tested pregnant, and um, went to the doctor. She goes to the doctor. They said, well, you're not pregnant anymore. And the doctors, they usually say it's your body either absorbed it, or it was a spontaneous abortion, or there always seems to be an explanation I mean, they're not gonna. I think there's some of my clients have said, to them, I think I was abducted by aliens,
Wow.
and you know, that's a
God love
lot to
them.
say. Um, some it's just surprising. Some medical people, doctors, nurses, are open to this. Others are kind of like laugh it off, or um, because it's almost like they're not sure what the explanation is for the
Mm.
disappearing fetus. Uh, but they put, I guess they have to write something in their reports. So, but those are the explanations that I usually hear. Uh, but yeah, the ones that are most, oh gosh, the men who are not in a relationship, or maybe haven't been in a relationship for a while, and he's taken to the craft and told that that's your child, that's your baby, and he's, the men are in disbelief. It's like, I don't have any children, and they get emotional too,
Mm.
which makes you emotional, because
Yeah.
it's our society. Oh, men aren't supposed to cry, and which is ridiculous. But uh, it's when you're shown this baby, this child, it's just a shock. Let's have a few men just actually, I mean, they were in disbelief about it.
Wow. I wouldn't be surprised. Wow.
Yeah, and the women that come up pregnant, and they can't figure out how. I mean, to me, oh my gosh, I couldn't even imagine
That's like the
that.
Immaculate Conception, isn't it?
It
Like it
certainly
is
is.
like you're not having sexual intercourse with anybody, and suddenly you find yourself pregnant.
And you've
That's
got
going to
all the,
change.
yeah, you have all the physical um, feelings, and you feel bloated, your period had stopped, your breasts are sore. I mean, all of the symptoms of a pregnant person. Uh, oh, I've had several cases like that, and it's boy, through those sessions, it's difficult.
Yeah, because suddenly then they're not as well. So in your work as well, how has the experience for the experiencer, I think it'd probably be different for everybody, but spirituality for them, how does it really, when you work with someone over time, how do they spiritually, do they get benefits from it, if you know what I mean? Benefits meaning like spiritual gifts, talents, I don't know, like something.
You know, people, oh gosh, most abductees, experiencers, I use the terms interchangeably, are very psychic, are very gifted. Many of them had, regular 9 to 5 jobs in a corporation, and they decided to become a Reiki healer, for one. They're reading tarot cards for a living, or doing
Mhm.
healing for a living. I mean, it's just, but what came first? Were they psychic already? Did they have these gifts, and then they had this experience and just enhanced those gifts? Or were they given those gifts by the beings? I think we're
Okay.
all psychic, but not all of
Yeah.
us realize it, not all of us practice it. Um, I mean, I have had experiences being, psychic or intuitive, but I don't feel confident enough that I could sit down and do a reading for somebody. I'm very confident in myself as a hypnotherapist, but as far as like a psychic, I don't consider myself psychic. But I've also read that people have, for example, near death experiences, also came back with gifts. They were very psychic, they were
Mhm.
healing, they were mediums, uh, they were able to make contact with people who have crossed over.
Mm.
So there's another experience, where people realize their gifts. But I'll say, probably my entire support group, they're all psychic,
Mm.
and have gifts, mediums, or I guess said mediums or healers. I mean, they're, to, different degrees. But people have also said that they're grateful for the experience because they feel they've come out of it once the anger dissipates, once the fear dissipates. They came out of it, as a better person, a more empathic person, uh, more spiritual, where they felt they weren't that way before. But it
Wow.
really opened them up to a different path. I mean, I don't look at the world the same. I mean, my life is so different now than it was 33 years ago. I mean, when this experience touches you, it can't, you can't help but it changes you, uh, because this is something that's so fantastic, that's happening, that, how could it not change your life?
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yes.
beautiful. There's something very beautiful about it. There's something very beautiful. I don't quite know what that feeling is, but there's something so beautiful about the whole thing. It's terrifying and it's frightening. And
Yes,
do you know what I mean, Yvonne?
I think, like I said, once the PTSD dissipates, the fear have, people with fear, of course, and anger. They're angry about what's happened to them.
Hmm.
But with the it all works together with these sessions, regression sessions, have information come forward, what happened to them. And I tell them many times before I bring them out, no matter what happened to you, you came out of it, and you're stronger and you're loved. And, because I can't say it's not never going to happen to you again, because it does happen again. But I like to empower someone that have gone through this, before I bring him out of hypnosis, because you know how powerful suggestions are. Um, and it does work. And um, once that all the negative feelings go, then they are able to get messages when they're up there with the beings.
Beautiful.
Sometimes they're given a tour of the ship. Sometimes they're shown other, places, what they're doing. Um, but it takes time, in going through the sessions and coming into the support group meetings. It's a process, and they're all different. Everybody process all of this, differently, just like we all process when we're grieving. There's no set handbook. Okay, this is what you're supposed to do now. This is, how you're supposed to feel. Everybody goes through it, does this in their own time. So in our meetings, everybody's on different levels, and nobody's right, nobody's wrong, and nobody gets criticized for anything. That's what a support group is. Everybody supports each other. So, but I think the experience can be very beautiful and enlightening. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
think about, we're in contact with beings from wherever they are. We don't know where they are,
Hmm.
maybe not outer space, maybe another dimension, or
Hmm.
maybe all of the above. It's
Hmm.
just so fantastic.
What about the ones, Yvonne, that just can't accept it? They've done
But
that many regressions, and how do they park that? Like, the ones that are just there's because we're all so different, right? How we deal with information. Not everyone's going to go yay. Some people are going to go no.
Oh, oh yeah.
How do you
The
how do you handle those cases, Yvonne?
it's really difficult because I'm always asked, Yvonne, can you stop this? I want this to stop. And I have to be honest with them. I wish I had that power, but I tell them to use whatever makes them feel empowered or safe. Some people use prayer in whatever religion background they are. Some people use a healing light around them. I'll use that while they're in hypnosis before I bring them out. I use that whatever makes them feel safe. Um, but I have to be honest with them and telling them, I can't take this away. I wish I could. But you have a support system around you. You're not alone. There's millions of people going through this. And so I invite them to come into the group meetings, whether we have them, because I host Zoom meetings for people
Mm.
around, other countries and around
Right.
the US. So whichever one they want to attend, but I feel that it's important for them to connect with other people that have had this experience and see where they're at with it. Are they still angry? Are they still afraid? And that does make them feel, you know, that it helps helpful when somebody feels that they're not alone with it. Um, and that's what I tell people all the time. The worst thing you can do is isolate yourself. Don't isolate yourself when there's support being offered to you. You can't talk somebody into not feeling the way they do. But I've had many people, I've worked with people that are, very angry. They feel like a lab rat. They didn't ask permission. I totally respect that and understand that. Oh my gosh. And then when it comes to their children, that's when it
Mm.
really gets very, very tough and very complicated. Because my son, my youngest son, he was having experiences when he was about 5, 6 years old, and my husband was very angry and just about you know looking at me like it's because you're doing this work,
No.
bringing this on. But I think if even if I didn't go into the work, I think he would have still had experiences as well as my other son. And it wasn't my work that brought it in other words.
Yeah.
I
So
think
both of your kids are having experiences.
like mainly my young, um he's
Wow.
well, he's 39 now. That's how long I've been doing it. But I remember, when he was 5 years old. I mean, I think back at those times, it's almost like yesterday. He just had a birthday a couple weeks ago, 39. I thought, when
Wow.
did that happen?
Yeah.
Oh my God. But he's open to talking about it. My other son is not. So I kind of leave him out, I don't say anything. And that's what I mean, how difficult this is with families and relationships. But my younger son, uh, he attends conferences with me or meetings with me, and he's talked about his experience. He remembers quite a bit. Certain things he doesn't remember, but I remember him saying something.
Mm.
So when it comes to the children, that's when the parents get really angry. It's like, I don't care what they do to me, but I want them to leave my children alone.
Yeah.
And all I could do is offer them, understanding that, look, I know what it feels like. I'm a mother. My son went through it. And he is now an adult. He's a wonderful person. He contributes to society. I mean, it's like telling them they're going to grow up to be fine. Just listen to them. Just be, supportive of them. And because his parents have said to their children, of course, oh, it was a dream. Don't worry about it. It's not going to happen. It's just a dream. But then it happens again. And that's where all the trauma comes in. And so, yeah, dealing with the children, that's yeah, it's so difficult for especially the fathers feel like I'm supposed to be protecting my family and I can't because I don't know when this happens. They feel helpless. Um, but like I said, I can't take it away. I can't stop it for them. I could only offer as a parent what we went through and
Mm.
how they'll come through with it fine as long as they know that they have your support, and then maybe
Wow.
share with them what happened to you when you were a child. you know um I think that's a comfort knowing that, oh God, that happened to my dad or that happened to my mom. And uh so the child doesn't feel so isolated. But when they're 4, 5, 6 years old, they they don't know. I mean, all they're saying is something came in their room, or they were taken outside, or they found themselves outside. Here a young child is outside in the middle of the night. How did he get out there? As a parent, you're terrified. um so oh my gosh, there's so many instances uh, with children, what they go through. But they're
I
most
couldn't
of,
imagine.
oh, they're at that age though, most of them aren't terrified. They're mostly like something was in their room, or it's almost like the alien beings know how to befriend a
Mm.
child.
Mm.
That's my friend. So it just depends on what happens. Some of them, are of course could be afraid, but I these beings know how to communicate to children where they're not afraid.
And is it always the same types of beings that people have these encounters with, or is there different types of races of these beings?
Well, there's probably hundreds of different types, but the ones that I come across when people come to me and the experiences that they're having,
Mm-hmm.
it's the little gray guys, that are described now. You see them in commercials. Um, they're the ones that get maybe 3 foot tall. Usually are the ones that take the person out of their in normal environment, bring them up to the craft. And then once in the craft, there's taller ones. They look like the grays, but they're taller. Sometimes they're wearing a tight fitting uniform. Um, then there's the praying mantis type, who's described often like a big ant or a grasshopper, or but you look at a praying mantis, and that's exactly what people describe. He's usually very tall. Sometimes he's wearing a cape, um, black cape, purple cape. Usually he's the one in charge. He will sometimes stand towards the back of the room, and it sounds like, it looks like he's giving instructions, he's giving direction, and it's usually uh telepathic. Oh, you've got a baby.
This is my almond-eyed cat.
Oh, look, I love it. We're all animal lovers. um
Yeah, big time.
yeah. And then there's the very human looking ones. We used to call them Nordics way back in what,
Mhm.
the 80s, the 90s, and now, they probably are the perfected hybrids where they could
Wow,
be down here, and they
you
look
wouldn't
very
know.
human. Some of
Mm.
them are, some of the beings are like, they're almost like they're lit up within themselves. A lot, I guess we'd call those the light beings.
Wow,
Um, Some come across, I don't get the reptilians very often.
that's a good
They're
thing.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they're there, but it's not like the cases that I have aren't interacting with them
Hmm.
constantly. It's the other ones that I've mentioned are always seem to be there working together. Um, yeah, so it's the shorter grays, the taller grays, the praying mantis. There's, when once they're on the craft, there's a chain of command, but it seems like the praying mantis is usually the one in charge.
Okay, it's good to know. And I know I'm not going to take up too much more of your time now. Do you think that you were chosen for this role yourself? You've written a book called Chosen, and in Ireland,
Yeah.
it's very hard. It's very hard to get your book, by the way, over here in Ireland.
Oh,
I've
it is.
been waiting about 6 weeks. Yeah, it's not available on Amazon or for Ireland. It's
Oh,
anyway.
my new one, the second edition of Chosen's on Amazon.
Yeah, I
I mean, it's
couldn't get it. I have ordered it from somewhere and I'm still waiting.
oh,
But tell
okay.
me about, do you think that you were picked for this role?
You know, again, many years ago, 20 some odd years ago, I couldn't say it because it sounded so woo woo and, just like, oh, she's crazy. But now with all my experience with the people that I've worked with the information that has come forward from people, um, I feel that I was put on this path to do this work, um, because it was the way that that everything happened in my life. I went to Bud Hopkins, his lecture, and then I was so enthralled. I mean, I don't get, um, when I'm interested in something, I'm interested, but then I'll go on to the next thing. This is the first time with this subject and this work that I have been so, what is the word, compelled. I mean, it just something, it just grabbed me, and I had to do it. It was almost like I had to do it. And I went to school, and I don't like studying. I just, was doing homework and studying. Oh my gosh. But the more I was, would get into the classes, and as closer to when I was becoming a certified hypnotherapist, I was like, I aced all of my tests at straight A's because it was something that I was so interested in, and
Mm.
I loved it. And then we would practice on each other, during the classes. So with me, I don't obsess over anything, but I did with this, which is not
Mm.
like me at all. So I feel definitely that I was chosen for this, or placed on
Mm.
this path, to do this work,
Yeah.
which now I'm grateful for it.
Mm.
Uh, I mean, after 33 years later, I'm amazed at the time that's gone by, and I never ever in the beginning thought of myself as an author or a lecturer. I just it was just one thing led to another. Doors opened. I didn't have to knock on any doors. I didn't have to beg anybody to, interview me. It was just people were coming to me.
Yeah.
And here, I'm now we're working on the book about my support group, and I've got about a dozen members that have written their own chapters. So we're
Wow.
hoping to get that out by the end of the year. It just takes so long for these projects. So that's going to be the next book. And then we're also been working on a serial documentary that we're
Mm.
hoping to get both the book and the documentary out almost at the same time. But
Wow.
I'll talk to my publisher about, so you didn't see my book Chosen on Amazon.
Yeah, but I couldn't get it in Ireland. It's just currently not available in your location.
Oh,
Because
I see. Okay.
because there's Amazon.com and there's Amazon.co.uk. Co.uk is Europe.
Right, right.
And so I had to go to another place. and it takes forever. But
Oh,
yes, because your
well, let
book is
me,
going to be very important. It's called
yeah,
Chosen.
I'll mention it to my publisher because
Please.
it's supposed to be out, everywhere.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
so
I'd like to share
thank you
your
for
link.
letting me know about that. So I have another session coming up at 2 o'clock, but I really
Thank you.
appreciate you having me on your show.
Yeah, well, I'm very grateful that you decided to come on. And just before you go, you're training up hypnotherapists in alien abduction regression, right? If
Yes,
someone's interested.
it the information that I had that you saw, I think
Hmm.
I can send it again. Would you be able to post it on your website?
I'm going to do that. I'm going to send a link. All the links to your information will be on this podcast as well, and then they can contact you if they want to sign up for that. Because
That would be
I think
great.
I think we're going to need more alien abduction regression therapists when we do start seeing things flying around. It's going to trigger a lot of memories.
Yes, it's going to be April 20th and 21st, and it'll be done. The class will be on Zoom, but
Great.
when I demonstrate the live regressions, they're going to be with me, present with me, and I'll be
Great.
choosing people from my support group to volunteer to undergo a regression. So
Amazing.
I want the therapist to see what actually happens,
Yeah.
in a regression, because anything could happen. So
Mhm.
thank you so much for posting that, and I'm so glad you're taking the workshop.
Yeah, I can't wait to do the workshop and get going on this myself. And thanks so much. And thanks as from one hypnotherapist to another. What you're doing is extreme. It's extraordinary, and not many people are going to be able to do what you've done. 33 years of that. So I just want to
Thank
thank
you
you for
so
setting
much.
the. Yeah, you set the standard very high, and that's we need people like that, in this reality. So I send you so much love, Yvonne, and thank you so
Oh,
much for
thank
your
you so
time.
much. Please keep in touch. Any
I
questions you
will.
have, and then we'll see each other at the
Yes.
workshop.
Indeed. Have a great session. Bye.
Have a blessed rest of the day.
I will. Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Yvonne.